Hello, everyone. Welcome into another edition of YBMcast with Matt and Brian. Unfortunately, Matt couldn't join us today, but hey, you know what? We're still going to do it. Want to thank everybody for joining us, supporting Youth Baseball Midwest. We appreciate it if you take just a moment. If you're a first-time watcher here, hit the subscribe button. Hit that dinger, because that's what we do around here. It's baseball. We hit dingers. That'll get you all your notifications. And for upcoming shows, again, every Tuesday and Thursday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'd like to thank our sponsors, because Youth Baseball Midwest is powered by Game 7 Baseball. Dave Schmidt, Dave Pinning, they do a great job. I appreciate those guys. If you're looking for a great tournament here locally, if you're looking, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, they do a great job. Get on their website, game7baseball.com. Spring, summer, it's a place to be. I have with us today on the show, we're doing we're finishing up our high school previews. I have Nick Clements with Liberty Wentzville High School, or is it just Liberty High School in Wentzville?
We just simply go by Liberty High School, but, on this side of the state, people know where that is. But once you get to central Missouri or the western side of the state, they start to think of the Kansas City Liberty. So typically it's Liberty Wentzville, though, whenever we have to describe it that way.
I figured as much, because it can get confusing, can it?
Yes, it can. Very much so.
Coach, appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
We're going to jump right into this subject matter. I've had some discussions with some other coaches, and your team is popping up in some folks' radar this year. And I know that you've got a player on your roster we've been watching a little bit, and everybody kind of knows about. But what we'd like to start with here, everybody's been dealing with the fact that they didn't get to play last year, so that's a difficult proposition. How's that looking with your freshman and your sophomore classes? How much are you able to engage that? Where is that part of your program right now?
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting times, that's for sure. One of the biggest things that I think we've, in our off-season stuff that we've done, one of the biggest underlying themes that we've gravitated toward is just having a sense of gratitude. Like, none of these kids, even us coaches, we've never really experienced a full season getting taken from everybody. Have kids that have experienced, season-ending injuries, but to have everybody go through the same experience where the entire season was taken from them. We're big on positivity here. So we're trying to turn a negative experience into a positive experience and a learning moment. So a teaching moment more so than anything. And it's just you never know what can happen. You just control what you can control. So one of the biggest things we've seen throughout our younger kids, our freshmen and our sophomores, is they just have this intense hunger, especially our sophomores, because we got all the way through 2 weeks of practice last year. So those freshmen were super excited to be, on whatever team they were on, freshman, JV. They were really excited to be a part of the team. Practices were going well. There was just really good energy. And then they weren't able to play high school baseball. So, those things where they're eager to get out there and prove themselves. So it's definitely a good thing. They're really, like I said, latching onto that whole turning a negative into a positive, which is what we're trying to do with the situation next year.
So you got some of these sophomores that, just didn't get to play their freshman year last year. How do you see, have you got any of those sophomores figuring into your varsity squad at this time?
It's tough to say, just because, we've definitely had, we've had our open facilities here at school and stuff. So you see kids that have had growth spurts over the summer and over the fall and the winter. And you've seen kids perform in other sports, which is good. You're seeing their athleticism. And then also, too, you're seeing what they did for their summer ball teams. So there definitely are a few kids that we definitely think could possibly do something at the varsity. Tryouts are definitely going to be the determining factor of that. But we definitely have, a couple kids that look very promising. One specifically that we've seen throwing a lot is Seth Bennis. He looks like he's been having some very good bullpen sessions. So like I said, nothing's until tryouts, but that is definitely one of our younger kids that, there's definitely a lot of promise in that sophomore class. There's a lot of promise amongst a lot of those kids. There's a real core amongst them. There's like 5 or 6 of them that hang out. They play together in the summer. They're really close knit, and they're a positive influence on each other, which is important. Like, they make sure each one of them is going to workouts. They make sure one of the things we do for tryouts is we turn in grade sheets. The kids have to turn in grade sheets, teachers sign and everything, and they hold each other accountable in turning those in. So I'm already seeing that sophomore classes. I can already see a very close knit group, and Seth's part of that group of 5 or 6 boys that are really close knit and holding each other accountable.
I love that stuff, just the accountability part, because it's the game. Baseball's a game. We all know we love to play the game, whatnot. But I love to hear the things that are underlying that situation, because those are ethics that transcend a game. They go into your life, your academic life. They go into your life after baseball, and sets that foundation for how do I hold myself accountable on a daily basis, because you're going to have to do that in the workplace at any point in your life. So
exactly right. And
go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things too. Like, we kind of, we do these things here at Liberty called culture classes. Haven't been able to do them as much this year just because of COVID restrictions and stuff, and trying to keep everybody, spaced out. But it definitely will be something we continue on into the season, where we talk about what you just said is the definition of what our culture classes are. It's the things that transcend the game. It's the things that not only will make you successful on the field, but make you successful in whatever else it is you choose to do in your life. And I always tell the kids, our coaching staff always tells them, like, we're teachers at heart. Like, the best coaches are the best teachers, and we're teachers at heart. And baseball is just the vehicle we use to teach them lessons. And it's just like you said, accountability is huge. I always tell the boys, like, when you're able to hold each other accountable, like, it's one thing to let your coach down, but to let your teammates down, like, that's going to quick bottom of the 7th inning when there's a ground ball up the middle, if you're going to dive or not. I mean, it really is. I mean, you don't want to let your teammates down, and if you want to run through a brick wall for your teammates, that's where you get that little extra extraordinary effort.
Absolutely. Let's move up, looking at these juniors and seniors. We know about Mr. Victor Quinn. I think most everybody does. I'm coming out to watch Mr. Quinn pitch. I think you got some great matchups coming up there with some really big arms in the GAC across the board. I'm looking forward to those matchups on Tuesdays. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. Go ahead. What would you want to say?
No, I'm biased. I love our conference. I love the GAC. So I'm a little biased. So I kind of bite my lip to hold my opinion. But my biased opinion is I love our conference. I think baseball wise, you will normally always see a team from our conference be in the Final Four. I mean, it's been that way for a long time, but it's because that competition of we're not only playing each other in districts and sectionals, like we're playing each other in these intense games from end of March on. So that competition breeds excellence. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of it. And like I said, I can't help but smile when people talk about the GAC, because I love bragging about it, because there's also, not only are there good players, but those good players are products of, there's some great coaches in the conference, like outstanding coaches that, I just think really help bring up the level of the conference.
And those, I agree with you. And those coaches are invested. We've had some great conversations, starting with Coach Eric Goff, Coach Perkins. We've had Coach Hill over at Easton, Coach Allen over at St. Charles West. We also talked to. So you're right. Great people, guys that really are invested in the programs. And I think that's a huge part of it, is being invested in these kids. Because it is more than talent. Talent has to be there. Everybody knows that talent has to be there. But I think the investment of the coaching staff, the time, the work, the kids themselves, and how do you teach them to invest that time they need to be successful.
Yeah, no. And I've been, fortunate enough. This is my third year at Liberty, but I've been fortunate enough in the past because I be a freshman and JV coach at Holt. So once again, all 7 years going in my eighth year of coaching high school baseball have been spent in the GAC. So working camps and seeing those coaches, seeing some of those coaches at the lower levels and then up at the higher levels, like you just get to kind of know them and you see that they genuinely do. Like not only do they care and live, eat, sleep, and breathe baseball, but they care about the kids. And that, like I said, I mean, one of the big things I always do my coaching staff is, kids may not always remember their statistics and things like that, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I remember back to all the coaches I've ever had, even when I was 5 years old and started playing T-ball, I remember how every single one of my coaches made me feel. And, you want to make sure you're on the right end of those conversations. And I can say with the coaches in our conference, I mean, I know they make their players feel a certain way. They love playing for them, and it's a product displayed on the field. Like you see it on the field, you see how hard those kids try. And that's why the intensity of the games is so great, because both teams care so much and give so much effort. And that's why the GAC is the product that it is, in my opinion, my biased opinion.
That's okay. I love that. Let's talk about some other kids that you're looking at this year to step into those roles for your squad, your varsity squad.
Yeah. So we've got some boys that we have 11 seniors, and 6 of which have already committed to go on and play at the next level. And then a few more of those kids that are in conversations of possibly going to the next level. So it's definitely, a great group. It's a great group of kids that work very, very hard. And we have some of those kids too that were fortunate enough that as sophomores, they were playing at the varsity level. Our 2019 team, they lost in the district championship to a very good Howell team, but that experience as sophomores made them hungry as juniors. And obviously we know what happened last year. So this year it's a leadership that I haven't really seen before, honestly. Like these kids, they are so ready to get out there and play. And honestly, they may start running the practices because they've been telling me, can we do this? Can we do this? Like, and it's one of those things where I feel so fortunate to have kids that are wanting to just get out there and take the reins and almost, they just say, I've had kids come up to me, a couple of those seniors that we have say, Coach, we're definitely going to hold the line is one of the sayings we say around here, where we're going to hold each other accountable and we're going to definitely, be the example for those younger kids.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So you guys, we've got you kind of looking at, I think in the state, looking around at some of that and some of the other conversations I've had, I've got you guys, talking about maybe top 10 in this state. So that's what I've heard. That's the birdies going off in my ear. But I want to ask you, within the GAC, what are teams that you're watching and looking for here within the conference itself?
Yeah. Well, once again, we know, baseball is an awesome game, and especially for the reason that anybody can beat anybody on any given day. And that's one of the reasons why I love this game so much. But especially in our conference, because the level of competition is so high. We know that Francis Howell always has a very strong program. Yeah. We know that Zumwalt South, Coach Goff, always has his kids, ready to play. Zumwalt South is always.
You said Zumwalt South, Zumwalt West with Coach Goff.
Right. Zumwalt West was who I meant. And then I got ahead of myself. Zumwalt West with Coach Goff is always extremely competitive. But then you have, Coach Friedel and Zumwalt South there. Those kids always play so hard. They're never out of a game. They're always in it. So that's another one that's going to be, very interesting matchup for us. And then we got our crosstown, opposition, Timberland. That's always a tough beat. And then too, you have, this was supposed to be our first year. The conference kind of realigned a little bit, and Francis Howell North came down to our specific part, our division. And, Coach Donahue, I have so much respect for him. I mean, he's coached for many, many years. He's seen every situation you can think of on the baseball field, which that experience is a huge asset for them to have, because he knows how to respond in every situation. So, like I said, I mean, all across the board, very competitive teams. And then also too, there's no team on our schedule. And I've talked to this with our kids. There's no team on our schedule where, especially division schedule with, like I said, Zumwalt South, you also have Zumwalt North and Washington and Zumwalt East, which Zumwalt East 2 years ago impressed me. My first year as a varsity head coach, just with the way they carried themselves and how they played. I was very impressed with them. So I expect the same from them. So like I said, there's nobody on the schedule that you can get your ahead of yourselves with. And that's another thing to go back to kind of what you started the conversation talking about, how other people are perceiving us, and being humble is one of the things that if you're not, this game will teach you to be humble real quick. It kind of has that way about it. That's why there's so many good life metaphors when it comes to baseball, because if you're not a humble individual in playing this game, that door of success will get slammed in your face real quick.
It will, won't
it? Yes, 100%. So it's one of those things where like we appreciate it, but our program is definitely, and our older kids know that. They know that that's something I speak a lot about, is just remaining humble no matter what. Like, because games aren't won on paper. They're just not. You've got to go out and perform.
And I think baseball, as you said a minute ago, is the epitome of that. You get a couple of guys on and you get a walk here or something there, something happens, all of a sudden you're down and you can't get that run back and something happens, and baseball is just such a tough game that way. I think that's why it's so difficult. You don't see undefeated teams. It just doesn't happen in baseball. And
it's so hard to be it's so hard to beat a team twice in a row. That's why I love our schedule, for the fact that we play, Tuesday, Wednesdays, or in some instances Monday, Tuesday, but Tuesday, Wednesdays, I love that back-to-back schedule, because it's one of those things where, like, if you have a bad Tuesday, you get a chance to kind of make up for it. Yeah. Your back's kind of against the wall though, which is good. That's good for a team to have to face that and experience that. Cause I know not every other conference does it that way. So, and like I said, you get to see it helps you too, I think, for these high school kids, because at the end of the day, you got to remember they're high school kids. It helps them kind of realize too, to not overlook anybody, like, because they see how hard it is to beat a team back to back. So it helps them have this like level of respect for their opponents, because they see like, oh man, this team looks completely different than the team we played the other day. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, as a coach, that you stress it the day before, you stress it before the game. And then before you know it, you're in the fifth inning and the kids are like, man, this isn't the team we saw yesterday. And it's like, I know, that's what we were telling you guys. So
exactly. Like, man, what happened? Coach, I'm going to get you out of here on this.
Life experience.
Exactly. I don't know, I want to talk to you a little bit about the state. I don't know how much you're following some of the teams, out of Kansas City, maybe down in Southwest Missouri. There's some good programs around, as you know, in KC and Southwest Missouri. I think GAC is still my personal opinion. I haven't seen much of KC, but I agree with you about the GAC. But what are some teams you see maybe coming out of those areas?
Kind of working our way out. I know Columbia, I know Rockbridge normally always has a pretty strong program, and we actually are going to be fortunate enough to hopefully play them this coming. We're in a tournament that we have to possibly play them. And then obviously you have, the Lee Summit schools are always, pretty strong in the Kansas City area. And then Blue Springs South is always pretty tough. Yeah. And then, like you said, down in Southwest Missouri, there's good baseball all across the state. And I think Missouri nationally is a little rated for the level of baseball that we have here. So I know the bigger states, Texas, the warmer climate states where they play seemingly all year long, they get a lot of the respect and national clout. But I think Missouri is extremely underrated. And I think, just by taking a look at the college programs all throughout the country, you can see how many kids, have Missouri next to their name. I mean, that speaks to the level of play that kids are not only at the high school level here, but at the younger levels as well.
Absolutely. I agree very much. I agree. Coach Clements, thank you very much, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys thinking of me and letting me come on here. I had a smile on my face the entire time, but that's because I love talking about baseball. But more importantly, I love talking about the kids that make up our program because I would do anything for them. And I love being able to brag about them because they're a special group, and I'm looking forward to seeing them get out there and perform on the field.
Outstanding. Coach, we're going to be following you. Kid, we're going to update, and maybe we'll just exchange some emails, see how everything's going. Just some, keep in touch.
Absolutely.
So
100%. Yes. Again. So thank you for.
Good luck to you, everybody. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes. You hitters, hit them where they ain't. Everybody have a great day in the Lord, and we'll see you next time.